Oh, Foxy, it's your birthday. Not for real, just for play. This is Cree Summer, and Moana Nui will be right back.
First question from the audience.
Oh, can you tell us what was the creative process of coming up with the character Stitch?
Okay, so for me, I was in character animation. The main creator of Stitch design, which is a little bit unique to the Disney movies, a lot of times it's a little bit more of a group type of process, but in that particular case, really Chris Sanders was the primary, the whole idea of Lilo and Stitch really is his, and so the basic design and everything about him originally really was all from Chris Sanders. And then once you put in the supervising animator, Alex Cooperschmidt, probably had a tremendous amount of into the pure animation, meaning the mechanics of him moving a lot. But for someone like myself, like I get this question kind of a lot. There's already like a character bible, like all the designs, the way he moves, like even the speeds and stuff that he goes at is already it kind of exists when it gets to like my run. But in this particular case, it's really from Chris's genius imagination. Okay.
JB versus the world. Seeing your brainchild and seeing something you had a hand in, going from your brain to an animated screen to now a live action film, what does that mean to you personally?
When I first started at Disney, I remember someone asking me, like, man, or was telling me, like, man, that'd be crazy when someone actually repeats the lines from a movie you worked on back to you. You know, that's when I first started. It's like, wow, that'd be amazing, like Star Wars. And now that happens like all the time, you know, right? So in this particular case, like Stitch voice, I hear that a lot. And people are surprisingly good at it. You know, this guy yesterday, he was like totally, man, he was like in the zone. He's like doing this whole scene. But what it means, you know, it's I guess fulfilling is the right word. Like, you know, when you start off, when you're an artist, you know, there's no solid path. In fact, there's a lot of doubt of like, what are you going to do with that type of thing? You seem smart, you seem driven and everything, but what kind of life are you going to have with that? So to have done that and gone pretty far with it, it's, I guess, more than anything fulfilling. And, you know, seeing cons like this, where, you know, how these movies, it's bigger than entertainment. This actually helps people's lives. Like they get through tough times watching these things. And what even the messages, Disney messaging especially, is very positive. And so, you know, it just means a lot. Like I always, like when I started out, I wanted what I did to, in some small way at least, try to better the world. Not to sound too grand, but that's what I wanted, and I think that's hopefully part of what I've done.
Yeah, so thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mark from Blurredography. Since you started with 2D animation and now with Lilo Stitch coming out in the 3D space and the advancement of the animation styles and the technology, what are your thoughts on newer animation techniques that were used for movies like Lilo and Stitch?
Wow. So I think you know, I was really, it's amazing how fast the technology advanced. Because when I got hired at Disney, people ask me, you know, students come a lot, like, how do you get hired? I was like, well, it's totally different now. I mean, I literally got hired at Disney because I could draw so well. It was a drawing portfolio, like literally several hundred drawings. That's it. That's all I got hired for. So now it's so much more. I don't know what the right word is. Science, mathematics. You know, just like programming and everything. I think it's wonderful because you cannot tell the difference between what's real or what's computer generated a lot of times. And I think as long as it's used to service a good story, I think it's great. It's a great tool. It's an endless tool. But sometimes, you know, just like when special effects started to come around a lot, you can see bad CG, right? I mean, that was the thing. You can see bad monsters or werewolves. Like, oh, you know, it's not like, you know, there. And it looked better to have practical effects, as they call them. And so now I just think as long as it's there and it's done well and it's there to service the story and not in itself be the draw, I think it's a good thing in a lot of ways. Yes.
Joy from the Moana Nui Podcast. You mentioned that you got hired in based on your drawings. What was it like when you first decided this is what I want to do with my life?
Okay, so last year, here actually, was Jody Benson was here. And it was that moment, I told a little bit of this story, it's true story, that in 1989, I was in high school, in my junior year in high school, and I saw on the wide world Disney, right, there's television, there's no internet, and it was the making of The Little Mermaid. And I get rather emotional even thinking about it. It changed my life. Seeing just that 15 whatever minute segment, seeing the making, the storyboards, her singing, and the animators, and it just clicked that people do that. Like, you can be a part of that. And I knew literally that day on, I decided I'm going to do that. I want to be an animator. Exactly, I didn't know what that meant, but I knew I wanted to work on Walt Disney animation and Disney movies. And I actually started writing a journal that day, and I've had it to this day. It's been, over 30 years, all the way from the goal, getting a scholarship to college, going to college, applying at Disney, getting recruited by Disney, all the movies I worked on at Disney. I met my wife on Mulan, and we got married during Lilo Stitch. All of that stuff, it's all there, and it all started, even just that writing of that, on that day of seeing the making of The Little Mermaid.
JB again. Besides your drawing, like, you're also like an author. Right? You have a number of books, particularly on the young children. Which avenue do you enjoy more? Like, is it the writing or is it the drawing?
That's a good question, and for me, I would have to say I actually enjoy writing more. I think it's because I enjoy storytelling more. I think that I don't struggle. I'm not fast at writing, but I feel like I'm more naturally talented at it. Like I have done so many. I've practiced a lot of drawing, and I'm pretty good at the drawing. I'm like a pro level artist, but I practice so much to get like that. But with the writing, I do study and I read a lot, and I read a lot on story structure and that type of stuff. I'm really big on the English language, actually. Like, I read whole books on, one of my favorite books is called The Sentence, and it literally just talks about sentence structure and that punctuation. I love that kind of stuff. But I've nothing in comparison to how much I've practiced. So I feel like it just comes easily for me. I can just I understand story structure, like real, just naturally. I think some people just do, but like I got a 2-book deal with Scholastic to write for Third Grade Mermaid and Third Grade Mermaid Book 2 off of 25 pages of my first 25 pages that I wrote in kind of like 30 minutes. And then it took me almost a year to write the rest of the book, because I literally was reading books on how to write a book. But I already had a multi-book deal just based off of like, wow, if you can do this, you must be able to do the whole thing. And I did, but it just kind of came. Is that follow-up then? Go ahead.
What story that you've read or watched or just taken it is your absolute favorite, and why?
Wow. I don't know if I could say an absolute favorite, but I can say that, you mean like movie or book type of thing?
TV show, anything.
There's probably a lot of reasons for this, but probably I feel my favorite movie is The Incredibles. I think there's so much around that movie, and there's ones that are close to that, but like the idea of what he's talking about when he says, these people are incredible, and they have to hide their incredibleness to fit in with average people because they're basically afraid of people who are extraordinary. And him, when they cut to later on, he's got this office job, it's all gray, he has to like swallow the little guy ranting at him and stuff, and he could do great things, he was meant to do great things, he has to hide his greatness. I think that's every creative person, where you in this world, it's almost like, you have to hide who you are sometimes. just to not get scorned or worse. And I think there's so much, that's how I felt. I mean, I felt like, man, I identified with Bob Parr. Not that I'm incredible, but anybody that has to just suffer through mediocrity and just the constraints of the world, that movie spoke to. And that to me was one of them, for sure. Go ahead.
Are you currently working on any new projects that you can speak on?
Yeah, so so there's two things I could say. One, I can't remember if this had come out last year or not when we met at MomoCon, but this is my newest book that came out last year. It's a graphic novel called Lucky Scramble. This is about competitive speed cubing, so everyone knows that these are Rubik's Cubes. But there's a whole world around they can really solve really fast, and there's very serious competition. So this book's my first graphic novel, so it looks kind of like a hybrid graphic novel. And it's about 5 very, very different competitors all converging on a national championship. And this one is, well, there's a writer and director and producers that are looking at optioning the movie rights, actually, to this, that, I don't know how much I can say about it, but ironically, it's the people that I've worked with at Disney, ironically, may be looking actually at this type of rights at some point. But then after this book, I have another book, a picture book. I do picture books as well. It comes out in October, and that one's called Moby Duck. And it's this boy's epic adventure of searching for his lost rubber ducky. And it's very epic looking, but it takes place all in his bathtub. And so we kind of go in and out of his imagination. You know that he's like in the bathtub because we see, and then it kind of ends with he does this huge whale splash, and then camera cuts back and we realize that his mother's been kind of sitting there reading a magazine the whole time, and she's soaking wet. She's like, that's enough. So, but that comes out in October.
Matt Jenkins, Moana Nui Podcast. Being that you work for Disney, you work on a project, and then once this project is done, is there a process of you get moved to a different project, or do you go and present to, I guess, a team of head animators and say, hey, here's an idea, or these are some other projects we're already working on, I'd like to work on this project. Can you describe that moving around process?
Yeah, no, again, I can only speak on, I was there for a decade, but when I was there, it's probably a little bit different right now.
Okay.
But also from my position, right? So I was an animator. I said there's probably, and there's kind of a couple phases of character animation, but it's like a team, right? There's the larger team of all character animation, but then you get broken into characters. And in the hierarchy of those character crews, there's usually a supervisor. Yeah, in cleanup, it's a lead key, and in the gruff, it's a supervising animator. And you know those people. A lot has to do with personality types, something that you like working with so and so. So they actually used to do this thing. It was even referred to as baseball training unofficially, where they would cast your next movie. So it's not chance that for me. So after Mulan, this might be fascinating. I really wanted to work on the main character when I started. I started at Disney on Mulan, and I was on Ling and Chiampo that I loved. It was a small crew. The lead key, the supervisor of that crew, also went to the same college as me, and so that was a great, super talented guy, Tom. But I really wanted to work on the main character, so I would go help the Mulan crew, which was a big crew, and that whole crew and that supervisor. I did probably more footage on the character Mulan than my own characters, just because I helped out so much. So then at the end, after that was done, they were casting just 2 people to help on Jane, the character on Movie Tarzan. And because I had done so much on that, and they had Dan, the supervisor on Mulan, he does a lot of female characters, he did Jasmine, and so, and then, so then they wanted him to do Jane, right? And so then he picked me to do, I was one of those 2 people, and it had to do with, I was there, I was always helping the crew, they knew who I was, right? And so because of that, then the work I did on Jane, when they were casting for Lilo, and Dan was the supervisor on Lilo, I became part of that crew because of what I had done on Jane, because of what I had done on Mulan, right? So that carries through a lot. And then, ironically, I was really fast, but I ended up working on all 3 movies with Tom, his name is Tom Fish, who was the lead key on Ling and Chien Po, but then I helped on Nani a lot. I worked on about a year on Nani. And then also on Brother Bear, they picked me again to work with the same supervisor on Tanana. So that kind of gives you an idea, I think, of like if they know who you are and they know your speed and what your strengths are. I always want to work on really female characters. I kind of like that a lot. Yes.
What are some of your favorite aspects and what is part of your thought process when it comes to character creation? Like aspects of them make the characters stand out and make them original and not make them just plain.
Okay, I think, so again, for my job at Disney, I was really not, that wasn't part of what my input was, but like for my own books, and I've written 8 of them, and so like in a book like this where there's 5 main characters, so characters are not random, right? You have the nucleus of your story is usually a main character, or it could be main characters, but like everybody that exists, whether it's a bad guy or not a bad guy, or the environment, whatever it is, they exist to pull out personality traits and decision making from your main character. That's what they're there for. Like you would have, and like the more extreme of the bad guy, the more extreme your good guy has to be, right? I mean, like James Bond doesn't arrest like pickpockets, right? I mean, and Batman doesn't just, well, I guess he does steal like other things, but like the worst, the higher stakes. So that's, you evolve all these characters based off of what needs to be. So sometimes in an ensemble case too, you don't have all of the same type of things, right? So Gilligan's Island or like Scooby-Doo and these characters, Lilo and Stitch, or any of my books, you have a character who's maybe a little bit more emotional, a character who's really not emotional, almost too logical. A character that is like just always taking advice. You have sometimes love interest things. You have people who are, like kind of like that, and they kind of help create almost the conglomerate of one personality. Did you have a question?
Last question?
How would you advise future animators like if they're going to create something at home versus going to school or going that route?
Everything is story. Everything is storytelling, and it doesn't matter if it's like really even just like really crude looking animation. Understanding what drives a story, and in a very simple sense, you have to have a character that wants something or even needs something that is understandable. People refer to it as like a carnal desire, like food, water, safety, shelter, love, those types of things where you don't even need any words or anything. We know, like as an audience, you look at it and you instantly know what that character wants, and you would want what he wants, he or she wants, right? And that's, and like they want it, not just kind of want it, but they really want it. That's why we're watching it. And if you can get that, and you have this kind of this connection with your character, it doesn't really matter if it's even good or bad animation or limited animation or like that's the most important thing. I think even then, secondly, is sound is really important, right? So it's especially in like say stop motion or like really limited animation, sound effects, sound design, the music and stuff like that is really, really, really important because in fact, many people say it's almost like 50% because it's so limited, right? You're not being blown away by the visuals. You're being blown. The conglomerate of the sound design and good story is super important, and even if you have really basic animation.
Okay, and to wrap everything up, can you tell the audience about how they can follow you and also get your book?
Yes. Okay. So yes, follow me ahead. Oh, here it is. Yes. I don't know if you can see it, but my Instagram is pretty much my most direct way. And it's Peter_Raymundo_author. And that's where I post most. And then my newest book can be anywhere. It's published by the great people at Penguin Random House. But it's everywhere, Amazon or directly from Random House or Barnes & Noble or Walmart or anywhere. But it comes in hardback and paperback. And so this is good. It's a middle grade. It's a graphic novel. So it's anywhere from between, like, I guess, third grade to high school would be good for it. Again, I want to thank MomoCon for this event being here. This is a top-notch event. We love coming here.
So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will.
If this the land of the free, it was a freedom then. When they annexed Hawaii and called it cedar lands, without any type of payment and no signing off, called themselves a republic in 1894. 1.2 million acres overtaken from the native Hawaiians. When they resisted, the West retaliated in violence and erasure. The Hawaiian language is banned as part of colonialism's plan to expand, yeah.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe. As a part of their ongoing war with Asia, used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No regard for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.
So if we put Hawaii into perspective, well, Black and Asian history is interconnected. Considering the fight with the Pacific, then of course, versus Asia, they was treated as a middleman for war, but didn't let the Western colorism run its course, cause dark skin was a sign of dignity to core. The land was taken in the name of capitalism, when prior to it was an actual kingdom. Clap back at the system.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe. As a part of their ongoing war with Asia, used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No regard for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it,